You're listening to a Lost in the Groove segment.
Having good vibes with your bones and joints. Taking a trip into the groove. American groove. American groove. Into stoner world. Gonna
I like that concept, a default low. You know, because I brought this up to you so many times where we have our ups and we have our lows. And what you're telling me is that your low is
Low.
the
Yeah.
ultimate low.
Well, I've had other lows. Like, I remember explaining, like, if my default low is like really, really low, when something, let me put it the other way. If my default low is really like high, like I'm just kind of like, you know, everything is going pretty well. I don't have a lot of worries. I've got things pretty structured, pretty figured out. And let's say something really devastating happens, like you get fired or, you know, you lose like a connection, friendship that you have with somebody, you know, then it's like when it hits me and I need to like initially cry, it's a little bit easier to handle because I'm not in a bad place in my life.
No,
but
you're not.
when a lot of things are like not situated and I'm already going through a hard time, my low, the default of the low is like really low. So like if something bad happens, the response is like bigger because I don't have as much inner peace to combat the, you know, whatever the new devastating thing is.
Yeah, I had that because,
which was
you know,
Sephora for a while.
for me though, you remember this, like I was dealing with bad finances. I still am. And I had my ultimate low where I couldn't even buy shit because I didn't have the money to do so.
Mhm.
And basically over time now, because I've been in that state and, you know, I've taken on other job positions and, you know, I'm doing this awesome podcast and so many other things, I'm able to now myself be okay with little money. I manage, you know, I make do with what I have. And I'm not trying to be, you know, one of those stereotypical clickbaity, you know, bullshit crap. No, I'm being serious. It's where you realize this is the predicament now. This is your low. And it may be like this for a while. So I have to make best with what I have now.
Yeah, like I had said, I had already like coped with a lot of my struggles in California, and then when I come here, I don't have as many of I don't have the same coping skills available here as I would there. Like I said that my apartment was like a place of peace for me, and so I don't have that anymore.
For me, it was Israel. So, like, I know for you it's LA, but for me
it's
it would
not LA. It's the apartment inside of LA, but it's
yeah, it's okay. I know where I understand where you're getting at. It's like that place of peace.
It's my escape zone, like where
I had an apartment like that too
in Israel.
Yeah, it was the one that I had in Achlaot that faced Gan Soccer, which was a park. So I totally dig what you're saying, honey. I feel you. I definitely get that, like, place that you go to and there's the spices that you know where they are. You know, there's that stove that's ever so familiar. There's that butcher's block that you've written and typed on dozens and dozens of times. there's so many of those elements. Damn, I'm
Yeah.
fucking stoned.
My podcast zone, my zone, like where my
Yeah.
mic hangs, and just areas that I've used repetitively in the same way. So I'm kind of like using spaces for like the first time, and so I haven't gotten them like broken
For the
into.
first time in
Like when I
forever.
sit down, it's
Sorry.
like I don't have any of my like regular things around me. Like I don't have my candles. I don't have, like a bottle of water. Like it's just like I just don't have things situated, and people don't realize how much, comfort those little things bring.
Yeah, because like when we do podcasting, especially because like we're a talk show and we're all about stoner culture and it's our vibe. We have our spaces. Like I have my recording studio here in my apartment, and you got your little nook there in Iowa, and you had that place in your apartment in LA. I mean, that was your vibe. That was your shindig.
Yeah, I feel like I should have like a funeral for my apartment or something. But
Yeah, we definitely should with like little, shrimp scampion.
I mean, I
little
definitely
linguine.
don't miss paying for the rent for it,
Oh
but
fuck no.
that was also something that I had gotten figured out. It was like I had figured out how to pay my rent every month, and so like,
Which was a goal that you put yourself.
yeah.
I remember you had that goal, like you were going to pay for this apartment, and you did. You made sure to pay every single month.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, my therapist used to try to get me away from only making safe decisions, which I thought was kind of funny because I bet therapists do the opposite things to a lot of people. Like they're like, you should make safer decisions. But for me, it was like, take some chances, okay? Like stop, just like being timid about everything. I think that a lot of my therapy was like the opposite of what people would do. I don't know. I have stories where I was like, I feel like I kind of had like the opposite experience with my therapist, where she was like, stop having everything planned out. Like just do sometimes,
Oh my God.
And I feel like that's something that I need to remind myself of right now, is that like, it's okay not to know your plan, which I think a lot of people have the opposite of. They need more structure. They need more plan. I get a little bit more worked up when I can't figure out the plan. And so it's like, I don't know, just a lot of like talking to myself to like try to, improve my mood and my attitude about things.
Yep. It's such an odd thing is where like when it comes to vibe, the vibe and an environment of a place can make or break a place, a setting, or even a spot. And I mean, that's odd to think, but those are a lot of the times where our memories come from. The reason why we love some of our favorite shows, it's because of their vibes. Damn, I am really fucking stoned. I'm sorry.
The vibe of my apartment was so good. Like, I don't know. Like, I had just really grown a lot in that space.
Yeah,
it was a
you were there
space
for like
growth.
2.5 years.
I guess I just grew right up out of it. It's just like, but I couldn't stay there forever. And it was too small. Like, there's reasons to be done with it. But like at the same time, like, I miss the apartment a lot. I guess, is it boring that the podcast is just me talking about how I miss my home? I don't.
No,
I love this home. I actually feel really guilty for missing my apartment too. Like,
but honey, like, just to tie this in, and I think this is important. We started off with the idea of a default low. No, and you know, seriously, because people don't, I don't talk about this enough. We constantly sugarcoat things. And when you actually look at life for what it is and understand that it's never going to be perfect, what you have now, if you think it's permanent, I don't know. Sometimes the universe has other plans. Actually, most of the time, it has other plans.
I was just like trying to force things into a specific way is
Oh,
really,
yes.
really detrimental. Just trying to like go with the flow and make the best out of opportunities as they come your way is really
Yeah,
great. It's can be a hard thing for me sometimes.
I know.
And like I said, I had spent 2 years or more working on improving the vibe of the current situation that I was in. So I had put a lot of work into making it a good environment for myself. All the time, I was thinking, gosh, what would make me happier if I had more friends? Okay, I'll keep talking to everybody. I keep, trying to get everyone together, keep trying to make connections, keep trying to come up with fun stuff to do. Like I made friendships. I made friendships with, I found my favorite stores. I really, really worked hard improving the environment around me. So I'm just
Some
going to do that here. I'm going to do the same thing, and
sometimes
probably like 2 years from now, I'll be happy, you know?
sometimes life has other plans. I like I mentioned earlier, I lived in Israel for a few years and I just picked up my bags and I left. And the reason I picked up my bags and I left, I didn't feel in my gut, I felt that it was time for me to go. That like quick moment feeling of it's time. It's time for me to leave. And do I regret that decision? No, I don't regret the decision. I got to meet you. If I'm with Carissa, if I was still in Israel, we would have never met. So, there's a reason for everything. And I learned something so valuable from that experience is I cherish those memories. Like I mentioned about thing that Stanley taught me, the things that Steve taught me, the people that I met throughout Israel, all of the different experiences that I have that I'm so thankful for. But I'm thankful for, the spot and the place that I'm in right now too, you know?
Yeah. I, so that works for you? Like, just kind of like focusing on what you do have, what is good about the space that you have.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
I have
Sometimes
a
that
great
is just
vibe.
like, the thing, the new thing to think about in order to kind of like move
Balance them
away.
out.
Yeah, move away from just like the kind of like sad reminiscent thoughts. It's like, okay, well, move to like the present. Think
So
about
it's like a renaissance of motion. That's how
what
I think of
there
it.
what there
Yeah.
is now. I
Right.
Yeah, I haven't situated everything the way that I want yet, So I'm
You need
not.
time. You definitely need time.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
Kind of what?
I feel like things have just been moving really fast. Like everything is just kind of coming at me, and a lot of things have changed on their own before I changed them. So I feel like I have like whiplash with like the fact that like I live here and I have a new job and like everything is different. Like
Emphasis on mental whiplash, not physical whiplash. Because I know what you're talking about. It's where you're kind of like in a whirlwind.
I am. I feel like the world is like blasting wind at me like very quickly and I'm like, "Oh, whoa." Like but
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that at all this whole weekend.
That's nice.
Yeah, I know.
That's cool.
I was able to like kind of like get control over my mind and just like have like a good time, which was really nice.
We're all about the artist. That is the whole purpose of this podcast, period. And you have a really valuable tool. You can share this with artists, people that are creative, someone that can enjoy this podcast and really enjoy the experience of Lost in the Groove. So, with that, let's jump back to today's episode, shall we?
Called
Flow State.
I had a conversation with my dad where I just talked about like just trying to live more in the moment, basically, because otherwise I'm going to drive myself crazy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's very easy to just go like this, just all the way down.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to, and I talked to you too, because I was really upset. There's one day I called you, I was at the grocery store, and I was like, everything is wrong. And you were like, it's okay. And I was like,
I got like 5 more minutes until my lunch is over.
And I was just like, I was pissed as fuck because I was trying to pick out everything that I was going to do, for the rest of my life. Like I was like trying to like figure out how to make everything about what I'm doing enjoyable. And
in a grocery store. Wow, that is definitely a place to do that, for sure. For sure.
I was on the phone and I go to the grocery store. It's like my happy place. I just kind of walk around. I get to like make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I made some really, really good noodles on Friday night. Yeah.
I made focaccia this weekend, and my boss. Yeah. Oh yeah, my boss went berserk. I made
berserk.
So I come from a bakery. My mom is a fantastic baker. My sister's also a fantastic baker. So I'm really good with bread. It's actually fun fact about Dave, Chris, if you want to know, I'm really good at making bread.
I know you're good at making bread.
So focaccia is, okay, so this is going to bore the fuck out of everybody. Focaccia is one of those types of doughs where you have to do 2 rises. And the reason is for this is because you want it to be really fluffy and airy. And oh my God, I don't know. It was just being at work. Like, listen, you're working a 9 to 5, and then I'm doing a 12-hour shift in a brewery, and I'm making focaccia bread. And there's like this uni. And if you don't know what an uni is, it's like this oven that's like heated up with propane. And the way that I made this dough, and I'll say this again, was you have to do it with 2 rises. So you have to put it in a warm place. You wrap it up. You let it rise for like 30 minutes. And then you do a second rise in a warm place for 60 minutes. Yes. And girl, oh my fucking God. It is the best shit. I mean, sorry for rambling and oh my God, Jesus, this fucking weed is woo.
No, I wondered. I made pizza dough one time, and like there's a couple different times I've tried to get dough to rise.
Oh, I can help you with that.
The very first time I was trying to get dough to rise was when I made pizza when I was in like junior high or something. Like when everybody was like, you can make your own pizza. It was like a thing that we'd do like for sleepovers or whatever, but we had to like sit it near the oven and put, I believe, a wet cloth over the top. Does that sound right?
So this is going to blow people's minds away. The way that the fundamental ingredient for making dough rise, it's actually the flour.
What? Isn't it yeast that rises?
So yes, yeast is important depending on the type of yeast you're using. However, if you use a flour that is less gluten, the dough has a harder time to rise. There isn't enough gluten, there isn't enough air that is breaking down those molecules. So this is so random. We went from default low to feelings and emotions to focaccia bread, and now how to make dough. Fucking love
you're
this.
talking to David and Carissa. I don't know why you expect anything different than
Oh my
dough
god.
and feelings.
Feelings dough. Feelings dough.
Food.
But
Food and feelings tied very close
But-
together.
yeah, so very important is making sure if you're gonna make a dough, make sure it's high gluten. Make sure it's a good quality. I honestly, this is the most important thing: is you want good bread. Take out the money and spend it on good flour. I'm telling you right now, you buy crap flour, you're gonna get crap bread. Plain and simple. The best quality flour, and also the best quality yeast, and that's pretty much it. It's flour, water, and yeast. If you get those ratios correct, you'll have a perfect dough that'll rise beautifully. And yeah, that's pretty much my advice to it. And it's kind of odd. Making bread is one of those things. I love that you're painting your nails right now. Oh my god, this
I'm
is beautiful.
sorry. I am listening, but I
love this. No, I love this
I
moment.
guess I'm
It's
fidgety,
beautiful.
and so I wanted a little
No, so-
activity.
Yeah. Show us the color, of course, afterwards. We have to
It's
see
just pink. I wanted to grab the red, but
rouge.
it's all the way in the car, so I was like,
Rouge.
fuck, the pink is right here.
But anyway, to answer your question, that is the way to make dough rice. It doesn't matter the cloth. Of course, you have to cover it, but it doesn't matter if it's damp or anything. Just high quality flour, the right yeast, and of course, having the right ratios between those three ingredients: flour, water, and yeast.
If you had to cook what you did, for a whole restaurant, how big is this pile of dough that you're trying to get to rise? I feel like that would be harder. I just had a little personal bowl of dough to make a pizza for me.
3 kilos. And
It's
it made
crazy. I would worry about it rising when it's that big. I also I don't know, do you have to do it in batches? I don't even think I could work
One
with
batch.
dough that big. I'm just overwhelmed by the idea of it.
So when we make our pizza dough, we use 2 separate machines to make one full dough.
So you at least have the help of a machine.
However,
Yeah.
when you're making focaccia,
Blech.
fuck, this weed is, I'm just saying this right now, sunburn. This shit is,
I miss
But-
that kind of thing.
oh my god. When you when I'm making for example focaccia dough. Focaccia is made with semolina flour. And semolina flour is a very dense flour. It's very dense. It makes dough less airy and less fluffy. So one way of adding that in is capturing the air. So no air, basically creating a greenhouse and allowing all of those chemicals and those mixtures and the molecules and everything kind of to combine to help it rise. This is why focaccia is one of the hardest doughs. There are many others, but focaccia is one of the hardest to make because it's very airy and fluffy. And if you fuck up just a little, it's too dense.
Yeah, it is really fluffy. It's definitely focaccia's one of those breads where when I ate it for the first time, I had to ask somebody what is this? What do you call this? What is the name of this
Focaccia.
bread? Because I need to know, because I need to eat it again. I need to know
Actually,
how to order it.
I'm Italian. I told you this. I'm 37% Italian. So I don't know. Maybe it's in my blood or something. Ooh.
It's really good. You have focaccia in your blood? Is that what you're saying?
Well, because I have Italian running through my veins. I mean, I guess. No, and it's also because food is was a very big part of me growing up, and I was around a lot of creativity. Now, come to think of it. But all in all, a fun experience. What's your thoughts?
I feel I definitely appreciate knowing people of different cultures because they introduced me to different foods that I had never eaten before.
Like Korean food. That's how I got introduced to
Korean
it.
food. I feel like I didn't have like a specific Korean friend that introduced me to Korean food. That was more of like a self exploration. Like I like went down into Koreatown and like tried Korean
Oh, I didn't have the
food.
balls to do that. No.
I at least like had like a friend to go with or whatever. I was talking about how Koreatown, like one of the coolest things about it was that they had these private karaoke rooms. So I'm very like shy with karaoke. Like I don't want to sing a karaoke song in front of like an entire bar. But what was really cool about Koreatown is that you could rent karaoke rooms and have like 10 people in a room, and they're like private little like sound booths basically. But you can get like there's a server that comes to your room and like asks you what drinks you want and like different stuff or whatever, but it's like
So
one of the funnest things to do for a
your own personal
birthday.
bitch for the night.
Well, I mean, they're like everybody's server. Like they're not like specific to you.
I know
It's
that.
like
But they have to come into your room, which means
really
technically they are your personal bitch. But
that sounds terrible.
I know it is terrible. I'm just fucking around. Listen, I work in a kitchen. Like, trust me, like I have a lot of respect for waiters and waitresses and the whole crew. Like, listen, like I'm a part of the system. But
David's like, I have a servant for the night.
No, but like all seriously,
no,
like
real trash private karaoke. But go on.
No, in the kitchen that I work in, I clean the dishes, I make the pizzas, I make the sticks. I mean, and I kind of help in front cleaning glasses. Like I do a lot of different things. So
You can relate.
No, like people don't realize a lot of the times when you go to like these establishments, some of these coworker, like the employees you're bumping into, they're doing multiple things. Like they're not just the person that's serving you the drinks. You know what I mean? Like
people don't think about that. Yeah.
No.
People don't think about how hard the work is, like when they're out, like eating. At least most people don't. I think some people, they've been through those experiences. It's like hard, but also not every work environment is like that. But some are.
Not everyone. I had last night somebody left me a $30 tip.
Cool.
Like he left us all like large tips and shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but whatever. It was really cool. And he was just like, give this to the staff, for the hard work that they did. And it's just kind of, that thing of just like recognition that it's a hard business. It's a hard life. I mean, you're right now starting like this whole new chapter. In a way, I'm kind of like ending a chapter and then kind of making a continuation. Like, I don't know where the fuck I'm going with any of this, but what I do know is that other people are recognizing, and that's not the thing that I'm focusing on. I appreciate when they do. That's the difference. Shit, this weed is really good. I'm going to smoke this on the next recording. I'm going to save this.
Yeah, you're good. Being a server... Being a server is a hard thing, I mean, we could do a whole episode just about that.
Yes, we can.
I think for some people, it's the right decision. Like, it's the right thing, I forced myself into doing it a lot because I like the lifestyle of it, Yeah, my dog.
I love Louie.
He's running around in the background. I have a whole bunch of like distractions. There's like people coming in the room and like my dog's like running in and out.
This is a wild podcast. Like, anybody that thought this was going to be a normal place for normal human beings, no.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing that I talk about with, how I sit here and talk about how I miss my apartment. I kind of miss like having like a zone that like I find predictable.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Yeah.
We're not sponsored, but I had to say it.
You like the AutoZone jingle?
Oh my God, there's so
So
many.
I mean, that's a good example of like, like I don't know, I'm not even used to anything coming in and out of a room while I'm podcasting. Like nothing, everything was one room. So there's no way for anything to come in and out. Plus I lived alone, so I don't have anything
No
coming in and out.
distractions.
No distractions at all.
No,
Yeah.
except the
Yeah, I don't
cracked
know.
out
I don't
hummingbirds.
understand. I feel fucking nuts. I do. I feel like absolutely insane over
Well,
the whole like having no predictability.
You know what's crazy? I was talking with some people that stopped by tonight, and I just like remember the conversation. I was just like telling them like I can't relate with people my age, and I feel the reason I can't relate with people my age is because I don't know. I just when you hit rock bottom and you've been smacked, spit, licked, tickled, tripped, trapped, and cracked so many times, it's just where you realize for myself, I find that I've realized that I just appreciate the moments that I got. Can't hear you, honey. You meeting your mama capadano. You girl, you muted the manakamano. You muted the manakamano.
Because I'm a fucking professional over here.
You muted
I feel like you
the
carried it
manakamano.
perfectly fine without me talking, though. Like
Yeah,
I feel like it wasn't even necessary for me to speak.
Yeah, I did a bit. I pretended that I couldn't say Carissa muted the microphone. I said, Monaco.
Did I never told you, David, that I had a dream after our last podcast.
Oh my God, you had dreams? Jesus.
I had a dream that David had bought a mansion, and it was like huge and like special and beautiful and like already like mostly decorated, and it had like a fucking like music venue in it, and you were going to be able to like play concerts like at the mansion that you had bought. And it was just like, I never even told you about the dream because it was so elaborate and so crazy.
Have you met me? I was like,
huh?
Have you met me?
You had bought a mansion, David. You were like a billionaire, and you had bought this like,
I would
like
never
mega
do
mansion.
That. I would like. I know this may sound baffling, but I don't know. But if I ever had large sums of money, I don't see myself buying a mansion. It's just not.
Not in this reality, but in the reality
in another
of my
reality. in Carissa's dreamland, yes.
In my dreamland, it was okay. It was really cool. But I had asked you, because the mansion was so big that I was like, I could just live here and you'd never even know that I was here. And you were like, honey, I don't know. And I was like, what? You're not going to let me live in your giant mansion? And you were like, I don't know. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I'll just keep asking. Maybe eventually he'll let me have one of these mansion rooms.
Hold it. Pump the brakes, honey. There's disc brakes now. They're no longer drums. Okay. You wanted to live in this elaborate mansion that
it was giant, David.
Oh my God. And had also a concert hall that had venues.
It was like a city. Like you had bought, like an estate. And I was like, so this mansion room in this wing, I was willing to pay rent for it.
It's called Dave's Cove by you.
Yeah, it was great, man.
That's what it's called.
Parts of it were like really, really retro with like sweet ass like wallpaper and like cool like the strangest like windows and like it was a good world.
So when you come up to the lobby, there is just like a line of like 1977 Cadillac Fleetwoods convertibles, just black. And then this is where it gets, oh my God, this is where it gets better, Carissa. This is going to blow your mind. There's a massive, giant chocolate fountain in the lobby.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of what, like, the level of my dream was, like, that there would be, like, a chocolate fountain and, like, you would pull up in, like, a flying car. Like, it was a crazy ass dream.
100%.
I don't know. I watched a bunch of spooky stuff, which I never watched scary things.
Oh boy.
Because it's October right now. A lot of people are watching, like, scary things.
October 13th is coming up.
I'm doing a podcast.
We're doing a podcast. Having good vibes.
I don't know what time I work.
Stone world.
I don't know what time I work tomorrow. I work tomorrow. What time do you work tomorrow, David?
Working 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. 9 to 5.
So do you have to be there at 9?
Yes.
Yeah. I wish I had like a set time like that. Like, I don't know. Mine is like always different.
No, I don't wish that upon you. Nope.
Well, I mean, at least in that regard, I don't want things to be so the same all the time. But
for me, this may seem like, oh my God, he is so new culture. I don't like a structured work schedule. I
would just like to know when I work. Like, it's fine if it's going to change all the time, but I do need to know when.
So with this job, it's just complete bullshit, because there are days that I come in there and it's just crap for the whole day, and the problem is that in that type of environment, for me personally, I just feel I've wasted 8 hours of my day every day, just wasted. And maybe I should have a different perspective towards it. Maybe I should. I don't know. That's just the way I view it personally. But
I don't know how other people don't feel that way. I felt that way quite often. Like, wow, I've just wasted an entire day of my life. Like, yeah, it was for a paycheck, but like, wow, what a fucking waste. I think that's because you know that you're capable of doing something better with your time. And some people are just, I don't know, they figured out how to make their job their potential, or they don't care, or they don't have the potential.
See, the difference, I heard this explained to me the other a while back. But right, we live in a world where there's the internet, and there is a lot of fish swimming in the ocean. A lot. So you gotta be able to like swim between those fish to be able to get to the very top. Yeah, gotta swim. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. And back in the day, there were less fish in the pond, or the ocean, whatever the fucking shit it is. But it took a lot more strength to get all the way up to the top. So, different perspective, different potential. It's understanding there's reality, and then there's your life. Reality, your life. Your life, reality, it's like this, Carissa.
Funny how, like, I always used to think to myself, like, oh, I've wasted a day, like, and I would daydream about like moving to California, and that would like, change everything. And like for a while it did, for a long while. And then even that reality became kind of the same, where I was just like working to like pay bills, and I couldn't really like do exactly what I was like passionate about anymore. I think a lot of it had to do with like breaking my shoulder. Like, I feel like I probably would have been able to like kick more ass there if my shoulder wasn't busted, but there was really no way.
For how much longer? For how much?
Yeah, there's no way that I wasn't gonna bust my shoulder. So like, I don't know. Just but I
When you told
think
me,
to myself about like what went wrong in California, and I think a lot of times I'll block out the fact that I ruined my shoulder, and then I'll think about California and I'll be like, "Oh, that's cuz I ruined my shoulder."
when you
You
told
know,
me,
like, and then I know it, but I
hey, it's Dave, and I quickly just wanted to jump in and say if you've been enjoying the podcast and enjoying this episode, if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that'll be so greatly appreciated. Because here's the thing, someone might read that review and make the choice if they want to listen to the podcast. You get to help grow this podcast with us. How fucking cool is that? Let's jump back to today's episode.
don't consciously know it. Like, I'll forget that like a lot of the problem
Cor-
was my shoulder.
Carissa, you forget when you told me. I to this day, I still cannot process this in my head correctly. The amount of clients that you were doing per day. I remember I was on the phone with you, and I was just like,
Yeah, I was
this,
heavily abused at
this
my
is.
workplace.
I was like,
Yeah,
this is not normal. No, like
it's fucked
clearly,
up.
this is not normal. And holy
It was
shit,
not normal. Yeah, it
holy
was really
shit.
bad. I was forced into an injury. I didn't know it could get as bad as it got. Like, it's a
It
really
was
big
bad.
deal.
It
Yeah.
was bad.
There's probably a lot of like emotional stuff there that I should like work through with like, you know, because it's like there's actual physical pain involved too. So it's like the first time that I've had like something really bad happen to me, and it was like both emotionally and physically painful at the same time. You know, I mean, there's other things, but that one's special. But I was saying that I watched spooky stuff these past few days on Netflix, these TV shows about haunted houses. And like, I'm proud of myself for being able to watch something semi spooky because I ward away all scary movies and all scary things and like watch absolutely none of them for a long time. I won't
I
watch
feel
scary
you.
stuff.
I feel you. No, I totally feel you. But I will say this: if I ever see, my favorites are like Vincent Price. I love me some Vincent Price.
I don't know
Or
really, like I've heard the name, but like what exactly is Vincent Price?
I think it's Vincent. Hold on.
I've heard that name.
I always mess up names. He was like this dark artist. Actually, a lot of people will know him from Thriller. He's that spooky voice towards the end. Hold on.
Hmm.
Yes, Vincent Price. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna, this is from Wikipedia. Artist, historian, art collector, gourmet cook. He appeared on stage in television and radio and in more than 100 films. Yeah.
No, I think that's really cool.
I like
yeah,
old-
I
I
like
like
that
old-
era of like creepy. I feel like they used a lot of theater tricks, a lot of like, you know, like fucking with your senses
They
to
had
like
to. Like, think about,
scare people.
we've talked about Alien. You know, when Alien came out in 1979, I mean, there were computers, all right, but you never really saw Alien. You know, if you ever just watch Alien again, you see the baby thing coming out, but you never actually see it until like the second movie.
Yeah, which like I like the first movie more than the second, and a lot of people like disagree. I feel
I
like
like
the
the
second
third
one
better than
has
the
like
second.
more action, but the first one to me was scarier because like it felt like you couldn't defeat the monster, you know?
The second one honestly felt they just wanted to show the whole alien. That was the whole point of the second movie. And the third one was way better than the second one, which is kind of odd. I felt the third was better because it kind of had that approach like the first one. But you're right. Using those type of special effects is what makes those scary movies way the hell more fun. Because you're like, oh, hear that? Shit. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
where they mess with like all your senses.
Yeah, I like
I
that.
don't know. There were certain things in the sometimes they like over dramatize something that's like not that big of a deal. Like,
I know.
and that can kind of like take me out of it. I'm like, this really isn't like that big of a deal. Then it's like it's not as scary, you know? But sometimes, I mean, I guess they like have to work stuff up, you know, in order to like see what works for everybody who's watching. But there's some times where I was like, this is just not that big of a deal. But
Well,
for the
it's
most part, I
like,
really enjoyed being spooked out, and I'm proud of myself that I actually like watched something scary and could like somewhat handle it. I don't know.
no, I think that's
I
awesome. I
I
love
was
that.
talking to I went out and was around some kids, and we were like out in like a campground area. I went to a bonfire the past couple nights, and the kids were referring to the forest as the Pennywise forest. And they were so casual about it and like not scared at all. Like, just like, yeah, it's the, you know, the Pennywise forest. Like, fucking murder clown lives in the forest out there. And they just like thought it was funny and like fun. And it's like,
Is any of this true?
what? No, it's just like kids like coming up with like funny stuff.
You you got to be careful about that shit, because
Why?
because there were cases in New York, especially where there were talks of, these random cabins, and there were quite many of cases where these people were missing their screws. I don't want to get too depressing, but to basically put it short, when Reagan was president, he basically disbanded mental asylums. So, I mean, they weren't in the best conditions when he dismantled them, let's be honest. But what basically replaced it was nothing.
So
So,
you're saying that like people who were mentally ill and had probably been through like shock therapy and different things like that just ran to the woods and like lived in the woods. That's a
yeah.
great premise for a scary movie.
Oh, well, there's a lot of them. I mean, especially in New York, because where I grew up in Rockland County, it's right out of the city. You can imagine some of these people that were in those asylums in the city. Where the hell are they going to go? They're going to drive out to upstate New York, and hide out and find a place low where they can't bother anybody, and they can find out who they really are and that kind of shit. And think about it, a lot of scary movies, where do they take place?
I mean, but that's like implying that people with mental illness are dangerous.
No, it implies that New York had a large amount of people that were mentally ill. And because of the shutdowns, a lot of them got released. So there were more cases because more people were out. It's not the fact that it's blaming, it's when you have 100 people compared to 50, there's more probability. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah. I get it. I feel like I don't know. It's an art form that I kind of like had brushed off for a while. Like this like being able to tell stories that are like scary. Like it's I
It's the
mean, I
spooky
guess I
season.
had been really I
Ooh.
love books and I love reading and I love stories and I love fantasy.
Like
But
R.L.
I for a
Stein.
long time had kind of like brushed off like the scary side of fantasy and
Do you
like how
remember?
much imagination is there and how much creativity there is. Like I had kind of like strayed away from it because I don't like being scared.
Goosebumps? Do you like
But I'm
Goosebumps?
like reminded again of like how cool it is. How it lets the mind like be free.
Hmm. Oh, definitely. It definitely allows you to be free. It definitely allows you to be like, oh my God, I just peed my pants. Question for you. Do you like Goosebumps? Do you remember Goosebumps?
Well, yeah, I liked Goosebumps. I feel like Goosebumps is really creative. It lived in like a realistic world though. like it took place in like our world at the time, and it
In
was
the
always like in
90s.
that world.
In the
So it
90s.
didn't jump around like nearly as much, but I think it's good. I think it's interesting how like some children can watch like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and It the Clown, and then some children should not even watch Goosebumps. It's interesting how all people are very different. Like it doesn't have
Oh, for
anything to
sure.
do with the age really of the child. It's like
Kind
some
of.
people care and some people don't. It kind of does. It always, there's always a possibility that it does, but I'm just saying that like it's not determined by age, to be honest. Like age is a factor you should use when making those decisions, but like
Somebody, it's
some
kind of,
kids it just doesn't bother them to watch scary shit. I don't know.
believe it or not, sometimes that could be an added benefit. A kid like that could be great, if they wanted to work in like the police force.
They're just not afraid. They're just like, fuck
No,
it.
that would be a really great career if that's something that they would want to pursue in the future. That's always like an opportunity. There's a lot of things you can learn. Again, I'm not a parent, but when you have kids, you can learn things about them as they grow up. Realize their strengths and their weaknesses and things like in that nature. And it's a great point. There are kids that can just like, it's just blood, Oh, his head just got bashed in. Big deal.
And like I see that in adults too, where like I see adults that'll watch like the scariest things and be like, And like, for me, like if something that I'm not able, to me, it's a little too real, even though it's just like a movie. And like, I don't really like thinking about a lot of it, like I'm like, oh, like this, it's a little too gruesome for me. But I like
Just remember
spooky
the blood is
season.
ketchup.
Do you have
Blood.
any Halloween plans?
Well, my mom wants me to take her to Disney.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I moved down here because of her. So, I'm trying to, the limited amount of time that I have now, I'm trying to move things around, and it's hard. I can't, I don't understand it. I don't understand what it is to be married to somebody for about almost 50 years, and them being gone, and starting over and shit. It's so strange when you just realize, even for myself, that the people that I'm around, when situations change, they change too. And it's just so clear. Oh my God, it's so fucking clear. And when
What your mom has had to go through is like, it's a lot. Like it's beyond spooky. Like it's like real life. It's really difficult. Yeah, what your mom, it was very unexpected that your father, would pass away so young. Very unexpected.
her best friend.
I was just talking about how women often outlive men. And even with like animals, like we were talking about how like often a female cat will live longer than a male cat. Different things like that. It's just kind of like sad. But it was something that had been brought up a few different times this week, is that a woman often outlives a man.
There are many reasons, I believe, as to why. I mean, you could start for anatomy, for one reason. Women's anatomy in many ways is kind of better than men. Just the way that, okay, so for example, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't actually take anatomy class. You did. Women's rib cages are shaped differently than men's, which means in regards to like impact and structure over time, it's like equal amount of it. It's interesting because you notice this throughout, even through the animal kingdom. Females are always different. You notice that?
Yeah, we're kind of like, I don't know, men are like more boxy, like more like triangle shaped. Women are, longer.
Except my
In a
cat.
way. I don't know. I feel like
Twixie's just pudge. She's just fat.
things that are smaller often live longer too. Like, but I don't know. I mean, just because like men are like bigger and bulkier, women are kind of like smaller for the most part.
Sometimes men outlive women. It just depends on
It
the
does
person.
happen, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But
I know there's like a big ass statistic, like that proves, that women really, and I mean, I was mostly talking about cats, but also, with human beings.
you
And
can
we're talking about how your mother outlived your father and how it's really, it's hard because like she for a very long period of her life she learned how to live with him. That was the thing to work at and to accomplish. And then, then everything changes. So
and then she
her
falls.
environment changed intensely. Like we should probably be a lot easier on your mom than we are. I'm thinking about how hard it is for me just like moving.
It's where, like you said earlier, she's reached her default low. And it's really strange and it's odd at the same time. And the reason is because you understand, even for myself, I've come to like the clear understanding and realization that things can change in a matter of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
One phone call, one moment. That's all it takes. And honestly, I am fucking tired of working for the man. And if it means for me, like I said earlier, working more hours, being more tired, so be it. I am tired of being a fucking slave to the wheel. Tired.
Well, it's like you need your apartment, so it's like kind of not even your choice at some point. It's like you just need a place to live.
Are you yawning already, Carissa? Ooh.
I read the statistic.
Ooh.
Women tend to live longer than men.
They actually did a study on this.
Yeah, I mean, it says that the average man lives to 76 and the average woman lives to 81.
Okay.
Which for me is a little low. Like I expect to live into my late 80s, possibly early 90s.
Remember, think about 30 years ago. If you ask somebody 30 years ago what old was, they tell you like 30. Now being in your 30s is like being in your 20s. That's kind of what it is now. And and think about it, like now you're getting people that are in their 50s that are hip. That are not. It's fucking crazy. I see it all the time. I'm like, you're 52? Yeah, dude. What the fuck?
I think
there's a lot. Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. Age means, a lot of things, but it also means nothing. Like you were saying that you feel like you can't relate with people your age. There's a lot of times that I feel like I can't relate with people my age, but maybe that's because I'm not trying to relate to them about anything specific. Like if we had something in common, that is something that we could be relatable about.
The thing is, though, for me personally, the people that I've bumped into that are around my age, I've never related with them. Like the conversations
you'd have to have like a thing like in common, but like regardless.
It's odd because we're the same age, but our upbringings is completely different. And the thing that
it's just not enough. Like to be a similar age is just not enough in common. It's kind of like the same thing with the, scary movies. Like it's like for some people it didn't matter that they were 7. For some people they could never handle watching The Ring.
No. That's a good movie, by the way. Sorry. Uh, uh,
It's been a long weekend. I
it's
think we both.
been.
I had
It's
a nap
been
today that
long.
was like 2 hours long, and it was just like not satisfying. It was okay, but it was like I expected to be asleep like the dead for like quite some time, and I really only slept for like a couple hours.
Well, I spent my weekend working 11 hours yesterday, working 7 hours today. So,
You've
shit.
been kicking ass.
Yeah, you know what though? It was time well spent.
Yeah. I got to spend a lot of time in nature this week. This weekend. I think that was really good for me. I think I really, really needed that. I think it's a huge recharge just to be outside, like
for
freely
sure.
moving around
Yeah.
in the sun and the stars. Yeah.
I always, when I'm going home, I always put my top down.
Mm,
You know, and
it makes me happy.
No, it's my way of connecting to nature when I can, but
Mhm.
it is very strange when you're able to feel the wind and hear it whistle and go by. That's, again, such a key thing I personally try to live with. It's just moments.
Mm.
You get those
You
moments.
remind me how much I want a convertible. Like I'm like, I don't care that it makes no sense.
It makes sense out here in Florida. I mean, it's probably, besides having like a Jeep or a big vehicle, it's like the second most practical because it's so humid out here, especially here at nights. It's like, so what are you gonna do? You rack up your fucking air conditioning, and you're gonna be shivering by the time you get outside, and my glasses are just gonna fog up. I don't want to deal with that crap. It's just more convenient. It really is. But on a high note, I feel even in default low, finding that flow state, finding those moments, and just
making the world around you better.
Oh, yes. Shit.
Yeah.
Well, damn. This has been an hour.
Somebody will, my boyfriend will ask me, like, what was the episode about? And I'm like,
Default low.
I'm like, I couldn't tell you an exact topic for that episode, but it was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing to touch on. It's something that can be hard to listen to, but I do feel it's definitely just killed a roach. My apologies.
That's a pod clip.
That's a pod clip right there, baby. But I feel that's the most important.
I'm about to draw on my fingernails.
Oh my God.
You're like,
So,
don't do it.
Carissa, as we all know, is the host of this awesome podcast. She's also a licensed esthetician, makeup artist, candle maker, and of course, pug lover.
And now I'm a bridal consultant.
Now a bridal consultant. On socials?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. That's pretty much it, because I'm terrified of all other social media. And even my Instagram is on private, so if you want to request, send me a message or whatever, and I'll allow you to look at my personal life if that's something you're interested in.
If you want to touch base with Carissa publicly, you can do that, of course, at American Groove Pod. That is a social media site we have available, and Carissa will be happy to answer any of your wonderful questions.
I would love to answer questions. I wish that people would ask questions more and write reviews.
Yeah.
Give us reviews.
I know. It's like one of those things. It's like, bruh. And touching on reviews, leave it on Apple Podcast. That's where
Apple
you go.
Podcast.
Yeah, that's very simple. You just go on the Apple Podcast app. You go to our podcast, Lost in the Groove Pod. Click on reviews. You add your stars, and you're done. Poof. Finished. Finito.
El Poof.
El Poof. On that note, if you want to learn more about the podcast and check out more wild craziness. You can find us at Lost in the Groove Pod. We are on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So with that, we love you all. I am fucking exhausted.
Arrivederci.
All right. Oh my God, Jesus, this weed is really good. Can you